For over 25 years, Summer Classics at St. John's College in Santa Fe has hosted participants from around the world for week-long seminars in literature, science, history, philosophy, and a lot more. The college's brochure calls each of this summer's 3 seminars, quote, an unrivaled intellectual retreat, end quote. I love that. With me today are Peter Pesek, director of St. John's Science Institute, where he's also a musician in residence. Wow, I love that. And David Carl's here. He's founder of St. John's College Film Institute and a former dean of graduate programs. Thank you both for coming in. Really appreciate it. The film stuff's interesting too. I like that a lot. Peter, let me start with you. You both are tutors for the college, the Summer Classics. What are the Summer Classics? It's an interesting name, but let's start with you, Peter. Describe the program, if you would.
Thanks very much for having us, Gene. And the Summer Classic programs are week-long opportunities for people to come and participate in St. John's seminars, to read books of literature, to discuss films, to discuss works of science, in a format which is special to St. John's, in which people talk to each other. The discussion is centered on the participants. The faculty are there to help and to guide as tutors, but it's an opportunity for a kind of mutual exploration which is both searching and thoughtful and joyous.
Right. That sounds interesting. Now, the word tutor can be a little misleading here. This is a full-on teaching classroom. It's not as if you're just sort of breezing around touching people on the shoulder.
Right, exactly,
right.
exactly.
You know.
We're sitting there and listening, asking questions,
right.
Helping people articulate their ideas, directing the discussion, but most of all trying to have it be that kind of conversation like we're having now between friends, in which people try to address the most important issues to them and try to have a meeting of the minds in which they talk to people with different views and try to see what would it mean to think in this way. Should I change my mind about something?
Wow.
How can I learn from the person that I'm talking to?
Oh, it's to my heart. Critical thinking. I love it. We need this in the culture right now. It's amazing. What are you going to be teaching this year? What's your class this year?
This year I have a rather full load in the Summer Classics program. As you mentioned, I started several years ago a film program at St. John's. The college has for decades now been focused on philosophy, literature, history, economics, science, mathematics, and I thought in the current cultural climate, learning how not just to sit down in front of a movie, but really engage with a movie, to experience a film as a work of art, to have a critical engagement with the technical aspects. So we're doing a 3-week program on film noir this summer.
Oh, wow.
Last summer we did a 3-week program on the history of the Western, which was perfect for Santa Fe.
That's awesome.
Had people from all over the country coming to study Westerns in Santa Fe.
No kidding.
So this year we'll start with classic film noir from the 1970s and go all the way up to the neo-noir of the 21st century.
Wow.
In addition, I'm doing a class on the paintings and letters of Georgia O'Keeffe in collaboration with the O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe. And then I'm doing something called Lessons in Leadership, where in the morning I'll be leading, as Peter has described, sort of classic St. John's style conversation seminars about some of the great works that could be seen as models for leadership. Machiavelli, Plutarch, Chinese writers like Confucius and Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Wow.
And those morning conversations will be supplemented by afternoon workshops where we sort of look at business models and hands-on workshop type activities.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
honestly, that sounds really interesting. Let's talk about St. John's here a little bit. I'm curious how Summer Classics differentiates a little bit from the normal liberal arts programs that you guys do. Do you see this more as a hand-in-a-glove situation? Does it stand apart a little bit from the usual thrust of St. John's? How do you see it fitting in?
We think of it as being a way that people can come and experience what we're doing at St. John's for a week.
Right.
But that the methods, the ideas, the things that are going on are very much the kind of program for which we've become known, I think, across the world and the United States as a leader in education, so that people learn to discuss, to explain ideas to each other rather than sit passively and listen to lectures. So it's a continuation, but the fact that the participants are mostly adults, if there are a few younger people, but it's mostly adults, changes it, because the people that come then have a kind of life experience and depth, which I've found always very wonderful in comparison with working with the undergraduate students, whom I also love. But there's something very special about talking about these books, about these ideas with people who come to it later in life, for whom it's a definite choice and one that they embrace with a kind of joy decisiveness.
You know, I'm smiling because, you know, the times I've had a chance to lecture and do some tutoring things, there's something about the older student. There's just something about the want to that comes in the door with them.
Yes.
That just, it must make the teaching experience very different to looking at a classroom of adults and knowing they're bringing something to the table. Do you find that as well?
Absolutely. I will say that perhaps selfishly, I find it incredibly gratifying to work with adults who remind me that what I have dedicated my life to matters to other people as well. St. John's College offers the kind of intellectual activity we do with people from virtually every walk of life. We have a summer high school program called Summer Academy, which we're currently enrolling for. Native New Mexican students, if they're recommended by one of their high school teachers, can attend for only $600 for an entire week-long experience, which includes residency, classroom experience, building friendships with students from all around the country who will be attending. So we do that for high school students. We have our 4-year undergraduate curriculum. We have 2 master's programs, mostly populated by young adults or older adults, some of whom are retired or looking for new career paths. And then we have a number of other quite vibrant adult education programs, our community seminar programs, our weekend seminar programs. It's really satisfying for me to work with people from so many different age groups, professions, walks of life, and remember that what the work we do, thinking, reading, discussing, it matters to people still.
Let's talk about some of the hands-on stuff you guys are doing. Interestingly enough, the science things that you're doing. I just find this kind of fascinating. We do a lot of science stuff around here, as you know. It's just kind of our thing here at PBS. But talk about that if you would a little bit. It's more hands-on. It's not so much being lectured at,
Right.
but there's other things to be able to do if you're a participant and a student as well.
Right, and over the past few years, we've brought that in through the Science Institute, which give people a chance to work through scientific texts
Right.
in discussion, but also, Gene, as you say, by doing the experiments, by observing. So for instance, this summer, there's going to be a week-long session on observing ants and studying the society of ants. And part of the time, the participants will be out in the field with the tutors, one of whom is a very fine entomologist, observing the ants. Part of the time, they'll be discussing together, reading texts, classic texts, in which people have tried to understand what's going on in the mind of the ant and what insight it might give us into human society and to the complexity that we face. I'm doing a session on quantum theory in which people will work with the actual, with models and with experiments, as well as go to the blackboard and try to explain things and try to work things out.
Right.
To me, that's one of the most precious things. At St. John's, many people don't know it, our approach to science is unique, really, in the whole world, because it gives people a chance to discuss, to find out what are the questions, not merely to learn from a textbook what are the concepts and to solve problems, but to go much deeper.
I love that. It's like a melody. You have to get a grasp of these things before you can take it to the next level.
Yes.
It's interesting. I'm so curious, David, you described the summer program as a gateway drug for for St. John's, that many of the students that do attend during the summer classics end up becoming full-time students. That's an amazing success story.
Full-time students primarily in our graduate program.
Right.
Because as Peter mentioned, most of the Summer Classic students are adults. Now we have occasionally had, and it's a wonderful experience, we'll have parents bring their high school age students and take classes together.
Lucky kid.
You know, it's a really fun thing for parents and the right kind of student to do together. But I would say 90% of our students are adults, and they come for a week in Santa Fe and they love it, and they come back next summer and they do 2 weeks.
Right.
And they come back and they do 3 weeks, and then they say, we want more, what's next? And we have very flexible graduate programs that can be taken as summer programs only or be taken at different times over the academic year. And the number of students who've gone from summer classics to enrolling in our full 4-semester master's program is quite large.
That's
really
a
a lot
sign
of
of
fun to
success
see.
right there.
I would
When
say,
folks are saying yes, the marketplace is saying yes to you, certainly. One thing we have to talk about here before we get out of this is folks come from all over the world. You've talked about that. But the program for Native New Mexicans, there is a bit of an outreach going on right now, isn't there, to get more New Mexicans to participate?
Yes, especially through the Summer Academy, as David mentioned, for students from New Mexico, recommended by a teacher. It's only $600 for a week.
Right.
And the college has been incredibly generous. I think among the most generous colleges in the United States in terms of financial aid to New Mexico students.
Wow.
So that for a large proportion of students from New Mexico, attending St. John's can be less expensive than attending UNM.
Wow. Most folks wouldn't know that. That's interesting. The perception would be that it would be miles beyond
Yes.
cost-wise at a public university. That's interesting. I'm so curious about the future for St. John's, if I can touch on something real quick. We've got, obviously distance learning is a big deal, a lot of lecturing you can pick up from a lot of different universities around the country and the world for free or for a little bit of a cost. St. John's, are you guys casting out a little bit and trying to maybe, a bit of a wider net for folks that don't have to physically be there? Is there a possibility folks might be able to participate?
Well, there is one program that I have worked on when I was dean of the graduate programs for military veterans and for military in the active services who were stationed overseas. We did a program called Combat and Classics, and we did online seminars for people overseas who couldn't come to campus. And it can be done, and it's a great service that we try to provide for free, obviously, for people who are serving our country.
Sure.
But we have found to really have a conversation, Gene, as I'm sure you know from sitting across the table, being together with the people in the room, with 15, 16 people, sharing ideas, revising your ideas. There's so much that can be learned online. The kinds of things and the way we learn when we're together is really important what we do. When I started at St. John's, in my first or second year, I was told, as you mentioned, the word tutor is a bit misleading. We are, anywhere else we would be professors.
That's right.
Of full college professors. Why tutor? I said, I worked so hard to get my PhD. I taught for 10 years in the California educational system. I moved to New Mexico. Why am I a tutor? And I was told, we're tutors, not professors, because we don't learn about the books we read. We learn from the books we read. And learning from something happens together. It isn't a lecture. You can get a lecture on the internet.
Right.
But learning together, learning from a book, is different than learning about a book.
The importance of that, is there a middle ground somewhere? Because we're talking about St. John's here, as if you don't know that. But it's not as if we're talking about distance learning for a public university. We're talking about philosophy and really grinding out ideas, the big ideas that run our world. It's your proposition that you have to be in the same room to be able to be effective at that. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think you have to be.
Yeah.
I think it's better if you can be.
Okay, interesting point.
For me, it allows for a flexibility of discourse that being strictly online. Philosophy is about questions, not about answers. And questions are things we do together.
In my experience, there's a spark that's passed from one person to another. And it's something that's very, very hard to do when there's not that kind of personal contact. And in my experience as a teacher over the years, it's made both to me as a learner and to my students, I think there's something incomparable and very special about it.
Yeah.
As David said, it's the moment of realizing how people think differently and why they think the way they do, and whether I should think like them or change my mind. That's something that's very hard to do, not face to face.
That is a fight worth having, though, because the end result of that is better citizenry, better people, better, you know what I mean?
Yes.
We see the world differently. It's interesting. Now, Summer Classics starts July 1st.
Correct.
How does one get involved? Where does one go? Website, anything?
www.sjc.edu.
That's it.
All the information about Summer Classics, about Summer Academy, about community seminars, about our undergraduate programs, about our financial aid programs, all available on the website, sjc.edu.
And you can Google it as well. Summer
Yes.
Classics at St. John. David, Carl, Peter, sorry. Thanks for coming in. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Great
you
stuff.
so
St.
much
John's,
for
a real
having us,
jewel of New Mexico. Now, a reminder, the first of 3 week-long seminars begins July 1st. Just look up Summer Classics at St. John's College on the internet, and we'll have more information on our website at newmexicoinfocus.org.